Hey, it is me, Manny Wolf, your cranky marketing uncle. Why am I cranky? Because I'm so sick of all the crap, the nonsense, the misdirection, the lies of omission, and every other thing in this space that leads you astray. So I am here once again with the truth. Here's some truth fresh from my coaching calls earlier today. Most of you don't do what you know you need to do for reasons that, if you could see them, are so tiny that it would kill you to know that they're the things stopping you. One of those things is the perceived amount of time it takes you to create and post and deal with your content. Let me tell you, it doesn't take that much time as long as you have a plan. And that's what this video is about. This training is about getting a plan ahead of time and sticking to it. For God's sake, stick to it. So the biggest culprit when it comes to being a strong content creator is that feeling of having to sit down, stare at the digital blank page and be creative. You can sidestep this completely if you just do some simple things. This right here is my hand-drawn version of a spreadsheet. Let's say you were to, along this left-hand column here, right here, let's say you were to put every kind of post you need for your Facebook group in that column. Do you need a post that gets people to raise their hands? Put it in there. Do you need a post that builds your authority? Put it in there. What about a post that shares your backstory and your experience? Put it in there. What about some memes, something to make people laugh and engage? Put it in there, right? Then along the top here, you can just choose any of a number of content styles. So quickly, the content styles, things like a rant. Rants are always good. Appeal to authority, which in this case, what that means is where you cite or even challenge the work of an expert. So Tony Robbins says something, you disagree with it, make a piece of content about that, right? And so what happens is, over time, and not very much time, you have these topics, and then on here you have the pieces of content you need to do and the styles, okay? Once you get that, all you have to do is just sit down ahead of time. Like, I can't stress this enough. Give yourself 45 minutes. Do it. It's worth it. Sit down and create 3 or 4 pieces of content all at once, and then put them on a Google Sheet. Schedule them in Facebook. You can do whatever you want. But the trick here is to think about it ahead of time and act ahead of time so that you completely eliminate that pressure to sort of sit down and be brilliant right here, right now, all at once. I cannot overstate for you how difficult it can be to put yourself under that pressure, especially when you don't need to, right? You could do 80% of your content on Saturday morning and just have the whole week, hell, the whole month dialed in, at least in terms of ideas and prompts. And that's before you get things like AI and ChatGPT and that stuff involved. You start using that and using it in a way that is like, you never want to let it do all the work for you. But in terms of ideas and prompts, it's a godsend. So remember this little spreadsheet, this little grid. Remember this guy. Remember him as though he were your savior. Commit to sitting down before you need to. That's the key. And creating some content, right? And you're going to say, what content do I create? And I'm going to point you right back to this little guy, okay? Sit down and create it all at once. Basically, this whole little training you're watching right now can be boiled down to get ahead of the schedule, get ahead of the pressure to create. Do it ahead of time when you don't have as much sort of like manufactured complexity and pressure pushing on you. And then just go back to the well, take the pieces and post them. That alone will reduce the feeling of how much it takes to create content, like by 90%. It'll reduce it by like 90%. So this is a quick one. super easy to digest, super easy to act on. And if you do it, like everything else that I teach you in these freebies, it'll change the game for you, right? The thing you've got to do is you need perspective. You need to understand that it's all of these like little internal blocks and points of resistance that slow you down, right? You've probably worked a job that is far harder than creating content on an ongoing basis. I would be willing to bet. But your perception, because it requires creativity and it requires you to sort of deal with the blank page, your perception is that this is much harder. It's not. It's absolutely not. Once you get over that hurdle, once you find a way to work around that inertia creation of like, oh God, what do I write? What do I post? What do I create? Do it ahead of time when the pressure isn't on, and watch how it changes things for you. That's it for this one. I'm out of here.